In global geopolitics, the most significant moves are often made not with armies, but with infrastructure and ambition. China has just unveiled a $10 billion railway, a modern marvel that cuts through some of the world's toughest terrain. This isn't just an engineering feat, it's a strategic statement. For decades, the US has used control over global finance and maritime chokepoints to enforce oil sanctions, crippling adversaries' economies. As the world's largest oil importer, China has long been vulnerable to these disruptions. This new railway is Beijing's answer, a direct overland energy corridor designed to bypass US pressure. It's a symbol of shifting power, forcing us to question the future of American influence and the nature of global trade. To understand its impact, we must first examine the weapon it was built to counter US oil sanctions. US oil sanctions are more than trade disputes. They're a powerful tool of American foreign policy. By restricting access to oil markets, the US can cripple economies and force political change, all without military force. The real power comes from America's dominance of the global financial system. Most oil deals are in dollars, routed through US-linked banks. Secondary sanctions threaten any company or country that does business with sanctioned states, isolating targets like Iran and Venezuela. This system works because most of the world values access to the US market over defying Washington. But what happens when a nation as large as China builds an alternative? The new railway is China's attempt to create a parallel economic track outside US oversight. It's a direct challenge to the foundation of US sanctions power. If successful, it could undermine decades of American economic statecraft. The stakes couldn't be higher. Enter the Trans-Himalayan Railway, a $10 billion link from Kashgar in China through the Karakoram Mountains to Pakistan's Gwadar port on the Arabian Sea. This engineering marvel required hundreds of bridges and tunnels through some of the world's harshest terrain. Its purpose: a secure, land-based trade route from China's industrial heartland to the sea, bypassing vulnerable maritime chokepoints like the Malacca Strait. In a crisis, the US Navy could blockade these sea lanes, but not a railway through faults in our Rambakan Kunstan and Sons. What a railway can botsell, the mailwurtetsmaner down son bottefermianans. The railway is China's insurance policy, an alternative energy lifeline immune to naval blockades. It also slashes transport times for goods between China, the Middle East, and beyond. This steel spine is reshaping the map of global trade, binding Pakistan closer to China and extending Beijing's influence deep into Eurasia. The genius of the Trans-Himalayan Railway is its ability to create a sanctions-proof corridor for energy imports. At sea, oil tankers are tracked, insured, and financed by global institutions vulnerable to US pressure. On land, the railway operates in a closed ecosystem. Chinese and Pakistani entities control the entire route. Oil from Iran can now reach China via Gwadar and the railway, bypassing US-monitored sea lanes and financial systems. Payments can be settled in yuan or barter, avoiding the dollar and SWIFT network. This parallel infrastructure makes US sanctions far less effective. For sanctioned states like Iran, the railway is a lifeline, ensuring revenue and undermining US leverage. China has built a bubble where American rules simply don't apply. Let's follow a barrel of oil on this new route. Loaded at an Iranian port, a tanker makes a short trip to Gwadar, avoiding risky sanction-prone sea lanes. At Gwadar, built and run by Chinese firms, the oil is offloaded into storage, then transferred to the Trans-Himalayan Railway. The train, managed by a Sino-Pakistani consortium and protected by Pakistani forces, heads north through the mountains to Kashgar. Payments might be in yuan or barter, no dollars, no US banks, no visibility for US sanctions teams. In days, the oil is in China's pipeline network powering its industries. What was once a vulnerability, reliance on US police sea lanes, is now a secure overland supply chain. Pakistan becomes a vital transit state, further integrated into China's economic orbit. The railway isn't just moving oil, it's cementing a new geopolitical alignment. This is the new Silk Road in action. The Trans-Himalayan Railway stands as a powerful symbol, highlighting the ongoing clash between US and Chinese grand strategies on the world stage. It's more than just a railway, it's a statement of intent, a new chapter in the global contest for influence. America's power is built on a foundation of strong alliances. dominance over crucial sea lanes, and the global financial system, enforcing a rules-based order where sanctions and economic pressure are key tools. The US projects its influence across oceans, shaping the world through both military might and financial networks. China's approach, in contrast, is to build connections, create alternatives, and physically rewire global trade in its favor. Instead of relying on existing systems, China is constructing new pathways, railways, ports, and digital infrastructure to shift the balance of power. The Belt and Road Initiative, with this railway as a flagship project, is about constructing new realities on the ground, reshaping the map and forging new economic corridors that bypass traditional choke points. China isn't replacing the US-led system, at least not yet, but it's steadily building the foundations for a parallel order. By developing parallel structures, China aims to reduce its dependence on the existing system and offer alternatives to other nations seeking new opportunities. This is a contest of sea power versus land power. The US projects influence from the oceans, while China builds a vast continental network of railways, pipelines, and cables connecting distant markets across Eurasia. The Trans-Himalayan Railway is a corridor immune to maritime pressure, a direct challenge to US leverage over global trade routes, and a bold step toward economic independence. These two strategies are now in open competition, not on the battlefield, but in the very architecture of global order, shaping how nations connect, trade, and prosper. China's move is a masterstroke in the grand chess game of geopolitics, forcing the world to rethink old assumptions and adapt to new realities. The world is watching closely, waiting to see which model, maritime dominance or continental connectivity, will ultimately shape the future of global trade and power. The stakes are nothing less than the balance of global power, and the outcome will define the next era of international relations. The completion of the railway sends shockwaves through global trade and energy markets, fundamentally altering the way goods and resources move across continents. This new overland route is more than just a transportation link. It's a strategic game-changer that challenges the old order. It creates a two-tiered oil market, one still dominated by the US dollar and subject to American rules and oversight, and another increasingly conducted in yuan or through barter, centered on China and largely immune to Western sanctions and restrictions. Sanctioned producers like Iran and Venezuela now have a secure, reliable outlet for their oil, weakening the bite of US sanctions and giving them new leverage in global negotiations. The more oil and goods that flow through these alternative channels, the less effective the old system of maritime routes and dollar-based trade becomes, eroding the influence of traditional powers. This also accelerates the slow but steady shift away from dollar dominance in global trade, as more countries explore alternatives and diversify their economic partnerships. Every barrel traded outside the dollar system chips away at America's financial privilege, gradually reducing its ability to shape global markets and enforce its policies abroad. For developing nations, China's model offers a new path: state-led infrastructure, rapid development, and fewer Western strings attached, promising growth and connectivity. But it also brings significant risks: debt, dependency, and the potential for new forms of political and economic alignment that may not always benefit local populations. The railway stands as a showcase for China's approach, forcing countries to weigh their options and choose between competing economic and political centers in a rapidly changing world. The world is no longer defined by a single set of rules or a dominant power. Instead, it's becoming a landscape of competing systems and shifting alliances. The choices nations make now about trade, alliances, and infrastructure will shape the next era of global commerce and determine who leads and who follows. The stakes are truly global, and the consequences of these decisions will be profound, echoing for generations to come. For the US, the Trans-Himalayan Railway is more than just a new trade route. It's a wake-up call, signaling a shift in global power dynamics that can't be ignored. Washington could respond with more sanctions, targeting Chinese and Pakistani firms, or pressuring Pakistan to limit its cooperation with Beijing on this ambitious project. But these moves come with real risks. They could spark trade wars, disrupt global supply chains, or even push key partners further into China's orbit, making it harder for the US to maintain its influence. The old playbook, relying on financial leverage and maritime dominance, can't stop a railway that winds through the world's highest mountains, connecting regions in ways ships never could. America can't blockade a train or easily sanction what it can't see moving quietly across remote borders. This moment demands a new strategy, one less about punishment and more about offering a compelling, positive alternative that partners actually want. The US must double down on investing in alliances, modern infrastructure, and a shared vision for global development that inspires trust and cooperation. Competing with China means proving that the American model, built on transparency, sustainability, and high standards, can deliver real, tangible benefits for people and economies worldwide. The railway is a symptom of a world where power is spreading out, not vanishing, where influence is earned, not simply inherited. America remains strong, innovative, and influential, but it is no longer unrivaled on the world stage. In this new era, influence depends on leadership, collaboration, and vision, not just dominance or military might. The future will be built with railways, ports, and bold economic ideas, not just aircraft carriers and sanctions, but with partnerships that shape the world for the better. The Trans-Himalayan Railway is more than an engineering feat. It's a milestone in the rise of a multipolar world. China's new corridor bypasses US chokepoints and the dollar, limiting the reach of American sanctions. This doesn't end US power, but it sets clear boundaries on its influence. The world is shifting from a single superpower to a landscape of competing centers, each offering different opportunities and risks. Smaller nations now have more options, but also face greater uncertainty. The railway physically embodies this new reality, binding Pakistan to China and redrawing regional alignments. The era of a single global rulemaker is fading. We're entering a world defined by new corridors of power and strategic rivalry between maritime and continental giants. The steel tracks through the Karakoram are a metaphor for the shifting plates of global power. The world is changing, and the trains are already running.